Hello and welcome to The Voice of Iron, and in this session, we'll be reading Dreams of Rain, Tape 7. I stepped out of Blue 1 with a hiss, as Mark's astrocar landed with a soft thud next to mine, his landing struts bearing the weight of the frame as it settled. The garage door shut tightly, triggering the bluish lights of the garage to activate and illuminate our vessels. Mark took his time stepping out, allowing me to lean up against the wall and engage him in conversation. So, what's on your mind? Or, want a drink first? He didn't look over at me, instead keeping his eyes on Blue 1 while walking in my direction, eventually turning to shake his head. No drinks. I just, wanted to talk about your whole trip. I've been concerned. Mark's voice certainly seemed to convey worry to me, and he looked a bit drained as he spoke. You alright? I hope I haven't been stressing you, I offered while he walked inside. Mark simply gave a sharp chuckle. Oh, Kitt, you stressing me out is nothing new. His dry humor was still there, but I could nonetheless sense something hanging in the air as he plopped down on the couch behind the VRH pad. I walked over to the fridge to grab a Cosmic Cola, leaning over the bar as the conversation began. So, what can I say to ease your mind, dude? I began, sipping the cola, but keeping my eyes on him to show focus. Well, first you can tell me when you plan on doing this little escapade of yours. I'd like to see you off. His tone was a bit low, airier, which indicated to me that he had a lot on his mind. Understandable, given that he and I had been friends for years and I was about to leave. Luckily, I had an offer in store for a bit later. I planned on heading out at the end of next week, but I got let go early tonight, so technically, I could go whenever. I began, looking over him again before quickly adding on a note. Not that I'd just ditch you. I'd let you know first, of course. Mark was toying with the display on his cyberarm, keeping his eyes glued to the chrome structure, face illuminated very faintly by the soft, yellowish-green light of his display. Right, you best. But, I mean, where will you go? You mentioned the system last time, but just how far again? Oh, not far at all. I have a bridge tape for the GU system. You don't have to worry, man. It's only a 3 light-year jump. Any bridge could make that. I offered, in the most reassuring tone I could, but what I'd meant to be calming only seemed to drive him further into the dumps, as his face drooped a bit more. Dude, it's fine. 3 light years is within comm distance. Even if something happened, I could just... No, it's not that. It's not that. He interjected, raising his hand, display on the raised arm briefly illuminating the otherwise dark, metal-colored wall behind him. He shook his head and got back on track quickly. But what, you'll just fly to GU from here? Oh, no. Somerset Station's orbit is never in a good position. No, I was gonna take Starlane 3 towards South End and make the jump from there. Not only is that the clearest shot, but the nebula won't interfere with the bridge formation there. I was about to go on, but he stopped me, speaking up. Just give me a second to kind of digest all this information, he asked. I had no reason to rush or overwhelm him, so I calmly replied, of course, sorry, before walking over near Mark and plopping myself down on the couch beside him. I drank quietly as he closed his eyes and leaned back, face showing plenty of contemplation behind it all. I figured this was a good enough time as any for my proposition. Hey Mark, speaking of all this, I have a little offer for you. He opened his eyes and turned to look at me. Offer? He inquired, his voice demonstrating a hint of cracking. I nodded my head, took a deep breath, and leaned in his direction. Given that GU is so close and that I'm essentially ready to go, I'd like to ask if you want to come with me. I threw it out there, plain and simple, but the look of shock on his face told me I needed more of an explanation. Now, you don't have to stay with me if you don't want. We can jump back after checking the system out for a few days, but I didn't want to be alone for the first jump, I said with a smile. And you've been with me for years, so... Kid, don't do this to me, he suddenly exclaimed with a raised tone. I was a little taken aback and leaned away as he put his head in his hands. Sorry, I thought it'd be a nice idea, I explained. But as he ran his hands through his hair, I quieted down. Kid, oh, I can't do this, Mark said, standing up and putting his hand against the wall, the metal-on-metal clank sound reverberating through the room. I stood up, keeping a fair distance from him, but nonetheless wanting to help. What? What is it? Sorry. I tried, but soon he turned towards me, looking me in the eyes with a very neutral expression. Not quite sadness, not quite anger, but definitely not joy. Kitt, he said with a shuddering breath, I got an order from up top last night, from the administrator. It said that an experimental piece of Astra's technology had been stolen from the Level 40 shipyard. A bridge drive, Kitt. Dread began to creep up my throat as I backed up. Stolen? No, I paid for that drive. I paid $30,000 for it, I told him, my own voice being raised. He just shook his head. It doesn't matter, Kitt. You got a lot of people upset with that drive. And when we learned your overseer, Bill, had apparently let you go early, he took a moment to take a shaky breath before pressing a button on his cyberarm. They sent me to get your confession. With horror in my eyes, he showed me that the display on his arm read, Record, and a smaller symbol in the corner displayed that it was transmitting as well. My worry melted and hardened into anger as I felt myself shaking. Mark, my best friend since we were kids, was betraying me to Astris when I was mere days away from reaching my dream. I had no insults to sling. I had nothing to say. But judging by how hard it was for him to keep a straight face, my eyes must have said everything. Kitt, on the charges of grand theft, indirect corporate espionage, and acquisition of an illegal bridge tape, you're hereby under arrest. I'm not sure what he said after that. I'm not sure if he said anything after that. I simply screamed, No! You can't take this away from me! Before dashing into the garage, slamming and locking the door behind me. I punched the garage door opener before yanking my keys from the workbench and trying to steady myself long enough to open Blue One's door. I could hear the door to my housing unit being rocked as he tried to open it, but I knew I didn't have long. I jumped inside the cockpit and didn't even worry about the straps before closing the door and hearing it reseal. Engine on, come on, I began as I heard a loud crunch, looking out the window to see that skeletal cybernetic arm had punched a hole through the steel door to the house. Main power, come on baby, come on, I said as I quickly strapped myself in while she activated. His hand reached the inner lock and disengaged it as Mark walked into the garage just in time to see me pulling out of it. I cranked the oxygen on as I backed out, seeing all systems green just as I hit the mainway, thrusters drifting me sideways before I hit the throttle and zoomed towards the exit. This concludes today's reading, and thank you for listening to my voice.